To understand why, you have to understand Mark. Mark was, by all accounts, the perfect man. We met in college, the classic library meet cute that everyone wants to have. He was studying engineering. I was drowning in literature. He was steady, grounded, and safe. I was chaotic and emotional. We balanced each other out. For 7 years, he was my rock. He remembered every anniversary. He brought me soup when I was sick, and he looked at me like I was the only person in the room. We built a life that looked flawless on Instagram. We had the apartment, the dog, the shared circle of friends who called us couple goals. But safety, I learned, can sometimes feel like a cage.
It didn't happen overnight. It wasn't like I woke up one Tuesday and decided to blow up my life. It was a slow erosion. It started with the silence. Not the comfortable silence of two people who know each other perfectly, but the heavy silence of two people who have run out of things to say. We stopped asking deep questions. Our conversations became logistical. Did you feed the dog? What's for dinner? Did you pay the electric bill? We became excellent roommates and terrible lovers. The intimacy faded, not just physically but emotionally. I felt like he stopped seeing me. He saw the version of me he married, not the person I was becoming. I tried to talk to him. I remember sitting at our kitchen island one night, watching him wash dishes. I told him I felt disconnected. I told him I missed us. He dried his hands, kissed my forehead, and told me I was just stressed from work. He offered to book us a weekend getaway. It was a sweet gesture,
but it missed the point. I didn't need a vacation. I needed to be understood. When you scream for help and the other person just hands you a glass of water, you eventually stop screaming. You just start looking for a door. The door appeared in the form of a man named Julian.
Julian was everything Mark wasn't. He was a client at the marketing firm where I worked. Where Mark was predictable, Julian was impulsive. Where Mark was safe, Julian felt dangerous. We met during a project launch in Chicago. It was supposed to be strictly professional. A few meetings, a dinner with the team, and a flight home. But the chemistry was instantaneous. It wasn't a spark, it was a forest fire. The first time we spoke alone, it was at the hotel bar after the rest of the team had gone up to their rooms. I should have gone up too. I knew I should have. But I stayed. We talked for 3 hours. He didn't ask me about the dog or the electric bill. He asked me what I was afraid of. He asked me what I wanted out of life that I didn't have yet. He looked at me with this intensity that made me feel exposed and exhilarated at the same time. For the first time in years, I felt seen. That night,
nothing physical happened. But emotional infidelity is a slippery slope, and I had already taken the first step. I went back to my room, and I didn't call Mark to say goodnight. That was the first lie. The lie of omission.
When I got back home, the contrast was jarring. Mark was happy to see me, but his questions were surface level. How was the flight? Was the hotel nice? I answered him, but my mind was still in that hotel bar. I started checking my phone constantly. Julian and I had exchanged numbers for work, but the text quickly shifted. It started with memes, then articles, then personal jokes. Then came the late-night messages. I can't stop thinking about our conversation. I wish you were here. My heart would hammer against my ribs every time his name popped up on my screen. I felt alive again. The dopamine hit was addictive. I told myself it was harmless flirting. I told myself I was just blowing off steam. I justified it by telling myself that if Mark paid more attention to me, I wouldn't need this. I blamed him for my choices. It's amazing the mental gymnastics you can do to protect your own ego. The turning point came 2 months later. Julian had a business
trip to my city. He asked to grab dinner. I told Mark I was working late with the team. That was the first direct lie. I remember standing in the bathroom, applying red lipstick, looking at myself in the mirror. Exhales sharply. I didn't recognize the woman staring back. She looked guilty, but she also looked excited.
We met at a small Italian restaurant, far away from my neighborhood. I was terrified someone would see us, but the fear only added to the rush. When he walked in, I felt weak. We barely ate. The air between us was thick with tension. Afterward, he walked me to my car. It was raining. It's such a cliché, isn't it? The rain, the tension, the forbidden lover. He leaned in, and he didn't even have to ask. I kissed him. It wasn't just a kiss. It was a release. It was all the frustration, the boredom, and the loneliness of the last 2 years pouring out of me. In that moment, I didn't think about Mark. I didn't think about the 7 years of history. I only thought about how good it felt to be wanted with that kind of hunger. We went to his hotel. I wish I could tell you I felt guilty immediately. I wish I could say I stopped halfway through and ran home crying. But I didn't. I stayed. I stayed until 2 a.m. And when I drove home, navigating the empty streets,
I didn't feel shame. I felt high. I felt powerful. I had a secret, and that secret made me feel like I had something that was just mine.
Walking into my apartment was surreal. The lights were off. Mark was asleep in our bed, the dog curled up at his feet. I showered, scrubbing my skin until it was red, trying to wash away the scent of another man. I crawled into bed beside Mark, and he stirred in his sleep, reaching out to drape an arm over me. I froze. His touch, usually so comforting, felt like a brand. That was the moment the reality hit me. I was lying in bed with the man who promised to love me forever, while my body was still reacting to the touch of a stranger. You would think that would be enough to stop me. You would think the nausea rising in my throat would be a wake-up call. But it wasn't. It was just the beginning. The affair continued for 6 months. I became a master of deception. I learned how to angle my phone so notifications weren't visible. I created a fake contact name for Julian. I started picking fights with Mark just so I had an excuse to leave the house and
cool off. I gaslit him. When he asked why I was distant, I told him he was being paranoid. When he asked why I was working so much, I told him he should be supportive of my career. I turned his concern into a weapon and used it against him.
I was living 2 lives. In one, I was the dutiful wife, planning our summer vacation and going to Sunday brunch. In the other, I was a reckless, passionate woman, meeting a lover in parking lots and hotels. The stress was eating me alive, but the high was too good to give up. I lost weight. I couldn't sleep. I was constantly on edge, waiting for the other shoe to drop. And eventually, it did. It wasn't a dramatic confrontation. I didn't leave a pair of panties in the wrong car. I didn't get caught in bed. It was digital. It's always digital these days. I had synced my phone to our old iPad a long time ago, mainly to share photos. I had forgotten about it. The iPad usually sat in a drawer, unused. But one Sunday morning, Mark decided to use it to read the news while I was in the shower. I came out of the bathroom, drying my hair, humming a song. I walked into the living room and froze. Mark was sitting on the couch, the iPad in his lap. The
was silent. Not the boring silence, and not the comfortable silence. This was the silence of a bomb that had just detonated. He didn't scream. He didn't throw the tablet. He just looked up at me. His eyes were red, and his face was pale, like all the blood had been drained from his body. Whispers. "Who is Julian?" he asked. His voice was so quiet I almost didn't hear it.
My heart stopped. The world tilted on its axis. I could have lied. I could have said it was a coworker, a prank, anything. But looking at his face, I knew it was over. He had read everything. The details, the times, the feelings I had confessed to Julian that I had never confessed to him. "Mark, I can explain," I said, the standard useless line of every cheater in history. "You can explain?" He laughed, a dry, broken sound. "You can explain why you told him you loved him? You can explain why you were with him last Thursday when you said you were at your mom's?" I stood there, wrapped in a towel, water dripping onto the hardwood floor, watching my life shatter. The safety I had despised? The stability I had called boring? In that moment, I would have given anything to have it back. I realized too late that the grass wasn't greener on the other side. It was just artificial turf, and now I was standing in the mud. He stood up and walked past me. He
didn't touch me. He didn't even look at me. He walked into the bedroom, took a suitcase out of the closet, and started packing, crying. Mark, please, I begged, following him. Please, let's talk. I'm sorry, it was a mistake. A mistake is forgetting to buy milk, he said, not looking up from his folding. A mistake happens once. This was a choice. You made this choice every single day for 6 months. You chose him every morning you didn't tell me. You chose him every time you lied to my face.
He zipped the bag shut. He walked to the front door. I blocked his path, crying now, ugly sobbing, holding onto his arm. Don't leave, I pleaded. We can fix this. I'll cut him off. I'll do anything. He looked at my hand on his arm, then up at my eyes. The love was gone. It had been replaced by something worse than hate. It was replaced by indifference. I don't know who you are, he said, and I don't want to know. He pulled his arm away, opened the door, and walked out.